Not all monsters are born. Some are made. And I should know, because I became one. I remember everything. The pain, the voices, the fire, and the moment I stepped into the darkness, never looking back. They say Ticci Toby is just an urban legend, a creepypasta. But legends have to start somewhere, and mine began the night I lost everything. If you think you know the story, think again. I don't expect you to believe me. Hell, I don't even know if I believe myself anymore. But I remember every detail. Every moment before my life changed forever. Some nights, I wake up thinking I'm still there. I can still hear my mother calling my name, her voice shaking, pleading. I can still feel the weight of my father's fists, the sting of every insult he threw at me. And I can still see the flames, licking at the walls, swallowing everything I had ever known. I was never like other kids. Something was wrong with me. Ever since I was little, my body wouldn't do what I wanted it to. My head would snap to the side without warning, my arms would jerk, my fingers would twitch uncontrollably. The kids at school would snicker behind my back, whispering cruel little names. Freak. Spaz. Ticci. They thought it was funny. My father didn't. He hated me. I could see it in his eyes every time he looked at me. The way his mouth would tighten, the way his hands would clench. He called me weak. Broken. He'd tell me to stop twitching, as if I could control it, as if I were doing it just to piss him off. And when I couldn't, well, that's when the real punishment began. My mother tried to protect me. She really did. She'd step between us, put herself in the way of his anger. Sometimes, she'd win. Sometimes, she wouldn't. I learned quickly that there was no winning for me. If I fought back, it only got worse. If I cried, it fueled him. If I ran, he'd always find me. So I stopped reacting altogether. I spent most of my time in my room. It was small, barely big enough for a bed and a desk. The walls were bare, the carpet stained. I'd sit there for hours, staring at the ceiling, listening. Listening for his footsteps, for the sound of a door slamming, for my mother's voice, trying to calm him down before things got bad. The only time I felt peace was when I was alone. Just me and the silence. But silence never lasted long in that house. There was always something waiting. A shout, a crash, a scream. Then came the accident. I don't remember much of it, just flashes. The squeal of tires. My mother's scream. The feeling of my body being thrown, weightless, through the air. And then, nothing. When I woke up, everything felt different. My body didn't ache the way it should have. The cuts and bruises didn't sting. I didn't feel much of anything at all. The doctors said I was lucky, that I had survived something that should have killed me. They didn't know that in a way, I had died that night. The boy that went into that car wasn't the same one that came out. Things got worse after that. The tics were still there, but the pain wasn't. I could slam my fist into a wall and feel nothing. I could bite my tongue until blood filled my mouth, and it wouldn't hurt. My father noticed. And when he noticed, he tested it. Pushed me harder. Hit me more. He wanted to see how much it would take to break me. Turns out, you can't break something that's already shattered. And then, one night, it all came to a head. I don't even remember picking up the hatchet. 1 second, I was cowering in the corner, my mother screaming, my father's hands wrapped around my throat. The next, he was on the ground, his eyes wide, his body twitching in a way that almost made me laugh. The house smelled like blood and fire. I remember my mother's face, tear-streaked, terrified. She wasn't looking at him. She was looking at me. And that's when I knew. I couldn't stay. I ran. Through the woods, through the cold, through the darkness. My body didn't feel the branches scratching my skin, didn't feel the rocks cutting my feet. I kept running until I couldn't anymore. And that's when I saw him. A tall figure, standing just at the edge of the trees, his face hidden, his presence overwhelming. I should have been afraid. Maybe part of me was. But for the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged. They called me broken. Doctors, teachers, kids at school, even my own father. They all had their words for it. Diagnoses scribbled in folders, whispered conversations behind my back. Tourette's syndrome, schizophrenia, SIPA, the inability to feel pain. If there was something wrong with the human mind, I had it. I don't remember a time when I wasn't like this. The tics were always there, my head jerking to the side, my hands twitching uncontrollably. It wasn't something I could control, but try explaining that to a bunch of cruel little kids who thought I was some kind of circus act. They laughed. They pointed. They gave me a name. Ticci Toby. Like I was some joke. At first, I fought back. I screamed at them, shoved them, did everything I could to make them stop. But that only made it worse. So I stopped fighting. I let them whisper, let them throw their little insults like pebbles against a brick wall. I told myself I didn't care. But home was worse. At school, I could keep my head down, walk fast, pretend I didn't hear them. At home, there was no escape. My father made sure of that. He wasn't always like that, or at least that's what my mother used to say. He wasn't always angry, she'd tell me, as if that somehow made up for the bruises, the yelling, the way he'd stare at me like I was some kind of mistake. I don't know what changed in him, or maybe he was always this way, and I was just too young to see it. The drinking didn't help. He'd come home smelling like whiskey, stumbling through the door, looking for something, someone, to take his anger out on. My mother tried to keep him calm. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes it didn't. And when it didn't, I learned to keep quiet, to shrink myself down, make myself small, invisible. It never really worked. The glass would still shatter, the words would still cut, and I would still be standing there, pretending I didn't feel anything. But the truth is, I really didn't. CIPA. Congenital insensitivity to pain with anhidrosis. A fancy way of saying I couldn't feel pain. You'd think that would be a blessing, right? To never feel a scraped knee, a broken bone, a punch to the face? It wasn't. Pain is what tells you when something's wrong. When you've cut too deep. When your body is breaking. When you need to stop. Without it, you don't stop. You don't realize how bad it is until it's too late. I learned to fake it. To flinch when I was supposed to. To act like it hurt when my father struck me. If he thought I wasn't reacting enough, he'd just hit harder. And the worst part? The worst part was knowing that if I had been normal, maybe, just maybe, he would have left me alone. But in all of it, in the screaming, the pain, the endless nights of pretending I wasn't falling apart, there was one thing that kept me here. One thing that made life bearable. Lyra. My sister. She was everything I wasn't. Bright, full of life, the kind of person who could walk into a room and make it warmer just by being there. She didn't see me the way the others did. She didn't see a freak or a mistake. She just saw me. She was the only one who ever saw me. When I was locked in my room, too tired to deal with the world, she'd sit outside my door and talk to me through the wood, telling me about her day, about some dumb joke she'd heard, about anything that would make me laugh. When the nights got bad, when the shouting got too loud, she'd sneak into my room and sit with me, holding my hand like that was enough to keep me from breaking. And maybe for a while it was. But nothing lasts forever. And the night everything fell apart, that was the night I realized I was never meant to be saved. The road stretched ahead, dark and endless. The hum of the engine filled the silence, the steady rhythm of the tires against the pavement almost soothing. I remember staring out the window, watching the trees blur past, lost in thought. Lyra was beside me, talking about something. I can't even remember what now. Maybe a song she liked. Maybe some stupid joke she thought was funny. It doesn't matter anymore. What matters is the sound. It started with a screech. A sharp, violent noise that cut through the quiet like a blade. Then, the jolt, sudden, forceful, yanking my body forward, snapping my head back. The world flipped, twisted, shattered. The smell of burning rubber filled my nose, thick and suffocating. Metal groaned, bending under the weight of destruction. Glass rained down like jagged stars, slicing through skin, embedding itself deep. And then there was the scream. Lyra's scream. It was raw, desperate, the kind of sound that claws its way into your skull and never leaves. And then, nothing. Silence. For a moment, I thought time had stopped. The world had gone eerily still, like the universe itself had taken a breath and refused to let it go. I tried to move. My limbs felt disconnected, foreign. My fingers fumbled against the seatbelt, numb, useless. My head was spinning, my vision blurred, but I forced myself to turn. Lyra was there. Or at least, she had been. Her side of the car was destroyed, metal crumpled inward like a crushed can. Blood streaked across shattered glass, pooling in the crevices. Her body was limp, twisted in a way that wasn't natural, wasn't right. I opened my mouth to say something. Anything. But no words came out. A hand gripped my shoulder. My mother, sobbing, pulling at me, her voice trembling. And my father, nothing. No panic, no fear, no grief. Just a hollow stare, as if the wreckage before him was nothing more than a minor inconvenience. The paramedics came. Flashing lights, hurried footsteps, voices speaking in rushed, urgent tones. They pulled me from the wreck, hands pressing against me, checking for wounds, for broken bones. But I felt nothing. No pain. No warmth. Just cold. They took Lyra away on a stretcher. Covered her. And that was it. One moment, she was there. The next, she was gone. And I was alone. The days after the accident blurred together. My mother barely spoke. She moved through the house like a ghost, drifting from room to room, staring at nothing, whispering to no one. And my father, he acted as if nothing had changed, as if she had never existed. He went to work, came home, drank. And when my mother cried too loudly, he reminded her, reminded both of us, how tired he was of hearing it. I stopped going to school, stopped talking, stopped trying. The walls of my room became my world. The silence pressed against me, heavy, suffocating. And then, the voices came. Whispers in the dark, echoes in the silence. And I started to wonder, had I ever been alone? It started with the shadows. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. A flicker at the edge of my vision, a shape shifting just out of reach. I would turn, expecting to see nothing. But something was there, always watching. Then came the voices. Soft at first, just whispers. A breath against my ear when I was alone. My name spoken in a voice I didn't recognize. Then they grew bolder. They laughed, mocked, spoke in riddles, in warnings. Told me things I didn't want to hear. I stopped sleeping. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt them creeping closer. My body would jerk awake, my skin cold and damp. My heart raced, my breath came in ragged gasps. I was losing control, slipping into something I couldn't explain, couldn't escape. And no one noticed. My mother was too lost in her grief, drifting through the house like a ghost. My father, he barely looked at me, unless he was angry, unless he had a reason. And that night, he found one. I don't even remember what set him off. Maybe I had left something out of place. Maybe I had said something in the wrong tone. Maybe he was just looking for an excuse. He yelled. Then he laughed. And then he hit me. Over and over. Harder than before. Worse than before. Something inside me snapped. It was quiet at first. A single, still moment where everything seemed to pause. The voices went silent. The shadows froze. The world around me blurred, dimmed, faded. Then there was heat. A rush of something I had never felt before. A weight lifting. A clarity I hadn't known was possible. My hand moved before I could think. The knife was in my grip, cold steel pressing against my palm. The sound, the sickening, wet sound, filled the room. Again. 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 He gasped. His body jerked, trembled, then fell still. I stood over him, staring down at what I had done, at what he had become. And my hands, for the first time in my life, they weren't shaking. It started slowly. A shift. A pull. A feeling that the world around me was bending, twisting, stretching in ways it wasn't supposed to. I would wake up in the middle of the night, staring at the ceiling, convinced something was watching me. Not from the doorway. Not from the closet. But from the walls themselves. Then I started seeing him. At first, just in glimpses. A shape in the woods behind our house. A figure standing too still at the edge of my vision. No face, no features, just there. I would blink, and he would be gone. But the feeling of being watched never left. It sank into my bones, deep and cold, settling in a way that told me I would never be alone again. The voices came next. Soft at first. A whisper that made my skin prickle, like someone was speaking right into my ear. My name. A laugh. A hum of something familiar, but wrong. They told me things, secrets I wasn't supposed to know, warnings I didn't understand. And when I was alone, they asked me questions. Doesn't it hurt? Don't you want it to stop? And then, finally, why don't you make it stop? I wasn't sure if they meant my pain or his. That night, my father was worse than usual. He had been drinking for hours, the stench of alcohol thick in the air. I could hear the way his breath hitched, the way his words slurred together in anger. There was no reason for it. There never was. He just needed to hit something, and I was always there. The first blow was expected, the second, too. But something inside me had changed. Maybe it had been changing for a long time, slowly unraveling thread by thread until there was nothing left to hold me together. Maybe I had been waiting for this moment. He laughed, low and mean, the way he always did when he knew I couldn't fight back. And then, I moved before I could think. The knife was in my hand, cool against my palm. I don't remember picking it up. I don't remember making the decision. It was just there, like it had always been waiting for me. The first strike was messy. The second was deliberate. The third, necessary. He gasped, eyes wide, mouth open, but no sound came out. The weight of him sagged, his body twitching before finally, it stopped. And then, silence. No more yelling. No more fists. No more pain. I stood there, my breath steady, my hands steady, my mind steady. And for the first time in my life, I felt calm. The house smelled like blood. It clung to the air, thick and metallic, mixing with the stale scent of liquor and sweat. My father's body lay crumpled on the floor, his face frozen in something that wasn't quite fear, wasn't quite surprise. Just stillness. I should have felt something. Guilt. Panic. Regret. But there was nothing. Only the steady thump of my heartbeat and the low hum of the voices in my head, murmuring like an approving audience. I couldn't stay. My mother would wake up soon. She'd come down the stairs, rubbing her eyes, still lost in whatever grief-addled haze she lived in now. And then she'd see him. She'd see me. And I already knew how the story would go from there. I had to leave. I had to run. My hands moved before my mind caught up. Cabinets opened. Bottles tipped. The scent of gasoline joined the blood. It soaked into the carpet, the furniture, the walls. It didn't matter where it landed. It just had to burn. I struck the match. For a moment, nothing happened. Just a tiny flicker of orange, a soft hiss as it fed on the air. And fire. It spread faster than I expected, licking up the walls, swallowing curtains and old memories in its hungry grasp. Smoke curled toward the ceiling, thick and curling, chasing me out the door. I ran. The cold night air hit my lungs like ice, but I didn't stop. I didn't turn back. The glow of the flames stretched behind me, reaching for me like grasping hands. But I was already gone. The trees welcomed me like an old friend, their branches bending, their leaves whispering. The ground beneath me felt solid, real. The only thing that had ever been real. I ran until my legs burned, until my breath came in ragged gasps, until the fire was nothing but a distant glow swallowed by the night. And then, the laughter started, low at first, almost gentle, then louder, louder. A chorus of voices, twisting together, filling my skull like a song I had always known but never heard before. I didn't fight it. I let it carry me forward. I walked for what felt like hours, maybe days. Time had lost all meaning. The cold gnawed at my skin, my legs dragged through the dirt, but I kept moving. Because stopping meant thinking. And thinking meant remembering. My stomach twisted, empty and angry, but I barely noticed anymore. The hunger had become a dull ache, just another part of me. My body wanted to collapse, to sink into the frozen ground and let the darkness swallow me whole. But something else pulled me forward. And then, he was there. At first, I thought my mind was playing tricks on me again. The voices had never shown me anything this real before. Tall. Too tall. Limbs stretched beyond what they should be. A figure that didn't belong. No face, no eyes, but I felt them anyway. Watching. Studying. I should have been afraid. I should have run. But I didn't. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. The air around him felt heavier, pressing into my chest, filling my lungs with something thick and unfamiliar. It wasn't fear. It wasn't relief. It was something else. Something worse. I took a step closer. The world around me felt quieter now. The voices in my head had stopped their laughing, their whispering. For the first time, they were listening. Waiting. I was waiting too. Another step. I could feel something shifting inside me, something slipping away, unraveling. My name, my past, my pain, it all started to fade, like smoke in the wind. I knew, in that moment, that I would never leave this forest. And I didn't want to. He raised a hand. Long, skeletal fingers stretched toward me. I didn't flinch. I reached back. And just like that, Toby was gone. And that was the story of Ticci Toby. A boy broken by the world, reshaped by suffering, and swallowed by something far beyond our understanding. Some say he never existed at all. Just another name whispered in the dark, a cautionary tale meant to keep children from wandering too far. Others aren't so sure. They've heard the stories. The footsteps outside their windows. The laughter slipping through the trees. They've seen the way the news leaves things unsaid, the way certain names vanish from reports, the way some disappearances are never explained. So, tell me, what do you think? Was Toby Rogers just another tragedy? Or is Ticci Toby still out there, waiting for his next visitor? If you enjoyed this tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. You never know when another story might find you. And next time, well, let's just say the shadows have more secrets than you think.